Okay. Thank you all so much for coming. I know most of you, there's a couple that I've, seen around the office, but not completely familiar with. But I want to start off with just having you guys write down a number between 1 and 10 of how you feel right in this moment, your confidence level. So number 1 would be, maybe you're tired or you're kind of down, you're not really motivated today. And 10 being you got a whole day planned, you're, got up this morning on the right side of the bed and you're ready to go. So we're not sharing these numbers. You could just keep that number yourself and then we're going to revisit that later. Take a moment, think from 1 to 10, where you think you fall. Okay. So I've been in sales probably a little over 20 years, but different types of sales. And the two that have kind of been instrumental that has influenced my career in real estate have been dental office that I worked at, which most people don't realize that's selling, but it is. And then the other one was actual phone sales. So have any of you ever done phone sales like in a call center? Okay, so the training, go through training and there's a script and then they give you your leads and then you call. And when I worked there, I worked for this company called Prosper in Provo. And they had basically what we were selling were coaching programs. So if you guys have heard of Robert Kiyosaki and Igraziosi, those coaching programs. And I would get 30 leads every week. And then they'd say, they'd kind of hammer it in. If you get at least 60 calls, 60 dials a day, the numbers will kind of prove themselves and you'll get, this many closes. For me, I'm not huge into cold calling. And so I tried their way and I tried the script and I tried putting in the dials and it wasn't working. For me, my lack of confidence when I would get someone to answer and listen, I would be so focused and worried about them hanging up on me that I would kind of speak through the script. And everyone can tell we get sold every day, multiple times a day. Those car warranty people, whatever, when they're reading from a script. So for me, I kind of took a step back and I said, okay, this isn't working for me. For someone else, that might work. But for me, I'm not coming across as the most at my best. I'm not conveying my message correctly or effectively. So I kind of thought, okay, for me, what do I need to do to sound confident in these phone calls? Because I'm asking people to hand over between $3,000 and $16,000 to a complete stranger over the phone. So I would send an email to all my leads, and I would do it by appointment only. So I would probably get from the 30 about 10 responses. And then from those 10, I'd probably set 6 to 7 appointments. And then I knew that for that week that I would close half of those. And I did every week. And I was in top 3, over 300 people on the sales floor. And week after week, I was in the top 3 for the whole company. So it was funny because they'd go through, so-and-so, he had this many dials, and so-and-so had this many dials for the week. And there would be like 350 and 480. And then they'd get to me, and it would be like 12. 12 dials for the whole week. And so for me, I found what worked for me, right? I had some people approach me, hey, can I shadow you? Can I listen on your calls? Sure, it might not work for you because I found what works for me. So this is kind of what we're digging into today, is more of how to find that confidence when you're making these difficult calls or sales calls so that you are communicating effectively. So we're going to go over image, your confidence, the psychology of the call, and scripts. So, can we move that? Okay. So how do you want them to see you? So really think, how do you want your clients in the world to see you? Do do any of those ring about, like, is this something you want to emulate? Is that something else? How do you feel, how do you want people to see you? And if it's confidence, or if you want to come across as the local expert, organized, empathetic, which a lot of people think it's compassion, and it's not, it's different, and integrity. So these are kind of some of the things that I strive for. And that could be different and unique to you depending on who you are, because we're all individuals. So think about how you want people to see you. And then how can you boost your confidence prior to the call? Anytime I have to make a different phone call or a sales call, I always stand up. I never sit down. We can all tell by the energy of the phone call we might not pinpoint it that the person's energetic, but we can definitely tell when they're slumped over at a desk and probably like in a dark room or something, I don't know. They just sound depressing. So I always stand up and I get my web phone and so they can hear that energy through the call. I keep a mirror on my desk for that reason. Kind of reminds me it's a reminder for me to smile as I'm placing the call, because they can hear that. And I try and come across assertive, relaxed, and confident. Power stance. We're going to go over some of that today. These are kind of a shortcut to boost confidence. So there are different power stances that people do. And in the animal kingdom, and even with humans, you can tell when someone is confident that they're taking a lot of room. They're kind of spread out, or they're standing up, or they have their arms out, they're leaning back, or they have their arms behind their head. And in the animal kingdom, they do the same. So you have the people up with the feathers, and the alpha males that kind of take up all this space. And so there's actual study behind power stances that we're going to go over. And then motion creates emotion, and that's from Tony Robbins. So if you're feeling stuck and you don't really know where to go, where to start, get moving. Start somewhere. So here's the video on power stances.
Your state changes other people's states. Haven't you met somebody who can walk in the room and suck all the oxygen out of the building? And I'm sure you've met somebody else that walks in and everybody just feels uplifted because they're living it, they're breathing it. It isn't fake, it isn't phony, it's not for show. It's who they are. States are contagious. I'm sure you've seen like somebody yawns and like, oh, don't do that. And like 3 people are yawning. Emotions are contagious. So you need to bring in the emotions that are going to absolutely produce the greatest level of impact. And what I do to do that is I've learned to change my state physically, because you can do that in a few seconds. Change your biochemistry. Trying to think through it doesn't work, but a radical change in your body, the way you move, the way you breathe, the way you use your voice, literally changes biochemistry. Harvard University 2 years ago did a study. I've been teaching it for 38 years. They did a study called power postures, and they showed that if you stand like Superman or Superwoman for just 2 minutes, it increases your testosterone 20%. It drops your cortisol 18%. That's the stress hormone. It basically increases your chance of taking a risky action, which leaders have to do, 33%. 2 minutes to change your entire biochemistry. No one's ever believed this before. I don't just do a posture, I show people how to dynamically move their body. And that's what I do with myself. And that's how I make sure that I can come in and influence others, because I first influence me.
Okay. So this study that he quoted is actually by Amy Cuddy. She did a TED Talk on it, and she goes a little more in depth and kind of shows the science behind it and what they found. One of the interesting things that she pointed out in her study is that even the visually impaired, when there's a moment of pride, we've all seen, professional athletes, they put their hands up and they have their chest, puffed out, and they have their chin up, and even the visually impaired, and who, they've never seen this, they will demonstrate the same postures when they feel that pride. So there's a strong correlation between your body language and your emotions, so your feelings and your confidence. It's all kind of correlated. So if you struggle getting out of that negative mindset, or getting motivated, changing your physicality and actually moving or doing something productive, accomplishing goals, getting out of bed, getting dressed, so you don't look like a homeless person. If those things boost your confidence, then those are actions that you can take to boost those emotions and feelings. So just wanted to reiterate what he said. So 20%. So anytime I make a phone call, I do stand and I do like the Superman, for 2 minutes. And I probably do some jumps and jacks before that to get my blood flowing. And then I do stand in my office like this for 2 minutes. And that kind of musters up, some courage to make these difficult phone calls. Another thing too, another tip that I didn't add on the slideshow, if you have a phone call that you are dreading, like maybe, fill out an escrow, whatever that phone call is, do it as soon as possible. Just get it off your plate, because if you sit there and obsess about it for the whole day, it will impact your whole day and it will get you out of that mindset. So just get it done. Just call them, muster up the courage, call them and make that phone call. So this one, how something is said is as important as the information being relayed. So when I worked at the Senate office, I worked for this group that owned 4 locations, and they put me, has anyone here worked in the dental office? Okay, so recall is like bottom of the barrel, like nobody wants to do recall. And it's basically, you call the patients and you tell them that they're due for their cleaning. Telemarketing. And that's what they gave me. And so I said, okay, I'll make it work. And I would call and have my little script, I'd call the patients. And I found that a lot of them were like, oh, you know what, let me call you back after we check our schedule. But one conversation kind of shifted things for me. She said, oh, I was just in. So I'm looking and I said, yeah, you were in for a filling. But the last time you actually had your exam and cleaning was almost 2 years ago. She's like, what? I'm there all the time. So I realized most people don't remember the last time they went to the dentist. They always think it was sooner than it actually was. So after that phone call, that was kind of an aha moment for me. And after that, every time I call, I'd say, hey, your last full exam and cleaning was on such and such date. We're calling to get that scheduled for you. And most people were like, really? It's been that long? I swear it was just, last year. And I started filling up the hygiene schedule. And once a week, the original manager would come around and meet with everybody and see how they're doing and set goals. And she saw that I had booked out the hygiene schedule for months. And she's like, wait, what are you doing? Because none of my other offices are having these results. And I told her most people don't know. I found that most people don't know. And I'm saying the exact same information, but I changed it to get my message across. So they gave me like gift basket and lunch and all this praising, because I filled the hygiene schedule. So then she trained the other offices to do the same thing. So don't be so focused on what you want to say, be more focused on what you want them to hear. And the best way to get there is to kind of put yourself in their shoes. So if you're calling expireds, they're getting called, they're getting 20, 30, 50 calls a day of agents saying the exact same thing, wanting to list their property. What do you need them to hear? Don't just go, oh, what did the last agent do that you didn't like? How come we didn't sell? Because they hear that. We have all heard that in class on how to make these calls. It's all the same. So really think about what they're going through. So if they're getting bombarded with phone calls of agents all saying the same thing, say something different while conveying the information that you want them to hear so that they remember your name. Because as soon as they hear real estate, they tune out because they already know why you're calling them. So what are you going to say that's different? I think it's on the next one, addressing the elephant in the room. So help them feel heard. This is the quickest way to make a true connection and to have them really feel more comfortable with you. So if you're not sure what that looks like, more mirroring. So whatever they say, you kind of repeat it back to them in a question, and that will get them to give you more information and talk, and people love to talk. And that will get them to kind of put their guard down because you're listening and you're, oh, really? Oh, it didn't sell? You know, just kind of mirror back what they're saying. So know your audience, put yourself in their shoes. We already went over that, but that is key. So you have to know who you're calling. And if I'm meeting with a new client, I will Facebook stalk them. If you know me, like, you know, this is true before I meet a client, because I want to know what their interests are, who I'm talking to when I meet them. I don't want to offend them. You know, I want to be as effective with that interaction as I possibly can. So yeah, I will Facebook stalk them. It's the old day grandkids, okay, you know, this and that and the other, and that also gives me talking points. Scripts. I'm okay with scripts, but not if you're reading word for word. You have to make it your own because people can tell when you're reading from a script. And they tune out because all of the phone calls they get, the majority of those are people reading from scripts. We are so burnt out from just being sold constantly that I can tell. It doesn't matter how enthusiastic they sound when they're reading the script. I can tell they're reading from a script. So make it your own. Yeah, just take, you know, the key points that you need to convey, but make it your own, put it in your own language so that your delivery comes across as more confident as well. And it's more authentic. It's more of a conversation. If you are unsure and you're kind of, you know, you're shy and you're like, oh, I mean, I don't know. And then you kind of fumble your words, practice on friends and loved ones until you get that flowing organically. Learn how to handle possible objections, be ready with your response. So my mind, it just never stops, but I think, well, what if they say this? Oh, I can say this. What if they say this? I can say this. It was brand new. Well, I've only had my license for a little over a year. But I approached this cute little 85-year-old man that it was a for sale by owner. And I didn't want to call. I wanted to meet him face to face. So I would drive by the house every day. And then one day there was a car. I stopped, I got out, met this cute little old man, and he gave me a hard time. Because he's thinking he's going to save money by selling it himself. You're just here as, you know, vampire, whatever, wanting my money. So he said, well, I have a marketing degree from BYU. Do you have a marketing degree from BYU? I said, no. I had sold a lot of houses. And he said, no. I said, well, maybe I can teach you a couple of things. And he laughed, and that broke the ice. So instead of me kind of shying away and, you know, walking back to my car, tail between my legs, I had that response, you know, quick kind of in my back pocket. And he laughed and he said, well, why don't you check back with me in a week? And then a week goes by, it was actually a week and a half. I called him, he's like, I've been waiting for you to call. I said, oh, really? He goes, yeah, I almost signed with this other lady. He's like, but I've been waiting for your call, I didn't have your number. So I ended up getting that listing. This was, I think, 2 weeks of me having my license that I got him to sign that listing. So final notes, don't be afraid of rejection, kind of expect it so that it doesn't bring you down. Because if you are just so afraid of getting hung up on being rejected, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter how great you are, it's going to happen. Keep in mind that the script itself is as important as the tonality expression during the call, becoming a personal when you're speaking to them. When calling an acquaintance, I think we all know Ford. I feel that works best with an acquaintance. And clothing. So anytime I have to meet with someone, a client, I will dress usually in black because I feel like I feel good in black. I will put heels on because that changes my mindset for the day. And if I take the time to get ready in the morning, I know I'm going to have a good day. If I just roll out of bed and I put my hair up and I got sweats and whatever, that's fine. But I know my energy level for the day is going to just be very low. So getting ready and finding clothes that you feel most comfortable in is what you wear. How you dress does impact how you feel. Always address the elephant in the room. If you're afraid of them saying yes, get them to say no. So we are already, think about the home warranty people or whatever calls you're getting. You instantly, when they call, you think no. And getting them to say no, you can change your question and kind of get them to say no to where they're saying yes. So what I love, the phrase that I love to use the most, that I found the most success, would you be opposed to me stopping by and going over this CMA with you? So would you be opposed to? Because that is not threatening, that is very, would you be opposed to? Right? Most people are gonna be like, yes, I oppose that. They're not gonna say that. Most of them are like, yeah, that's fine. You know, yeah, no, you can come by. Or no, I wouldn't be opposed to that. That's fine, come on by. And so that phrase, I would keep in your pocket because if you get them to say no enough, and it's validating those thoughts, and it will bring their guard down. Generally happy that you picked up the phone and dialed your prospect. So again, with the smiling, I think they did a study where they had clinically depressed people actually smile into a mirror. I think it was for 7 minutes. And that completely changed how they, I mean, I don't think it completely got them out of depression, but it increased it decreased their level of depression and kind of increased their well-being. So another study they did, I think they had someone put a pen in their mouth and it kind of forces you to smile. And they weren't telling them why they had to put a pen in their mouth. And it worked. It made them feel better. So smiling, and we can hear you, but I want you guys all to stand up. And we're going to do 2 minutes. You can choose your power pose. If you just, this is probably the easiest one. Or you can swing back, but whatever, make it big. And I'm going to time you guys. If you spread out. So 2 minutes. Let's see. Okay, ready? And just hold out for 2 minutes. Okay. Should have put some music or something like that. Yeah, and have your chin up and kind of put the chest out. Just whatever that stance is that makes you feel powerful. Only 30 seconds in. So I'll do this and I'll walk around my office so that I don't just stand there like this and people wonder what I'm doing. So I just walk around. I'll walk over to the window and just, but I do this before I have to make these phone calls. And I think Braxton commented on the post, and that is why he has that standing desk. He stands for every phone call, right, Paul? Yeah, I don't think my kid ever sits. And he's noticed a difference in that too. So every time I have to make a phone call, I stand. Last year, I called this A-list celebrity. First, I stalked his assistant for a good 2 weeks to make sure I had the right number. And then I called his assistant, and I was so nervous about that call because I didn't want to get hung up on before I could say what I needed to say. So I wrote out a little script. I kind of went over it a few times, and if I'm only going to get one shot, they're going to block my number. So I called, and conversation went well. He didn't hang up on me. He was excited to hear from me, and I sent them the information on the home that I was proposing. I didn't hear back from them, but I also didn't get hung up on, which I was expecting. So that was a scary phone call, but only because I thought, they don't know me and they're just gonna hang up on me. Okay, we're at, past 2 minutes. Okay. So go back to that little number that you wrote and see if you have felt a difference at all. So if you wrote a 3, like did this boost your confidence level by any? Did it not? And then, kind of look back on that number and see if it's standing that way in that power code made a difference. Did anybody notice the difference?
Yeah.
From when I first said it? Okay. So any questions that I can answer, anything that you're kind of struggling with that you think you would, that you kind of need help seeing, I guess, how that applies to you? And if not, I will play Amy Cuddy's TED Talk that kind of goes into the science a little bit more. She's the Harvard professor that did the study.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So when you call, do you ever call leads?
I have, for me, so anytime I got a lead, if it was close enough to my house, because I think I've actually bought leads last year. And if it was close enough to, because I bought leads within my, Utah County area, I would actually do a CMA and I would show up to their house with the CMA in hand, because I felt that for me, I'm most effective face-to-face, and I can pick up on their disc personality better, and I can kind of adjust my pitch. And it's harder to really get a read for their personality over the phone in such a short period of time. So when I would get those leads, I showed up to a few of them with the CMA in hand. And like, hey, do you have a minute? I've got some sensitive information about your property. And I especially did this with people in my neighborhood. And what I would tell them was that it's in my best interest to see your home sell for the highest amount possible, because it affects the price of my home. And so I have some skin in the game. And to them, that made sense. And so I was able to get a couple listings in my neighborhood by using that pitch. So if you are in your area, in your neighborhood, and you see for sale by owner, or if one of these leads come through and it's in an area that you're comfortable with, feel free to use that. Because all the other agents, one of them interviewed 7 agents. And he told me that before I got there, he had already made up his mind that they were just going to do the sale by owner, but he wanted to keep the appointment. And by the end of that appointment, he signed. It is because I used that. I said, I have skin in the game. I live in this neighborhood. Your home would be a comp for my home. I want to see it sell for the most and the highest that it can, so that because it affects the property value of my home. And he signed. So again, it's not that I'm saying anything too different from what these other agents probably said, but the way that I delivered it was more impactful. So because, I live in the area, most agents will say, I want to see your home sell for the most it can in the fastest amount of time. And that's great, but that every other agent is saying the same thing. So really try and be mindful of that and who you're talking to and how you're delivering that message. So if it's changing the order, of what you usually say, because you know that most agents are, I think Keller Williams, they're like really big on scripts. So they're saying kind of the same thing as 50 other agents. And so what is going to make you stand out and make your call different? And a few of these calls that I've made, as soon as they say, Karen Knuttgen, Presidio Real Estate, they zone out. They already know why I'm calling, and I address the elephant in the room right up front. And then that kind of gets them to perk up a little bit, and then they go, what was your name again? And then I tell them, Karen Knuttgen, Presidio. And then they're like, okay, well, why are you calling? And then that kind of leads into a more fruitful conversation, because I kind of already addressed why they think of calling. So it's not, I would love to give you scripts and ideas, but really you have to make it personal to you. When you're most confident, what does that look like? When you're most effective with your conversations, what does that look like? Is it when you talk about something that you're comfortable with, that you know a lot of? Is there an area that you kind of shy away from because you don't know much about it? When I first started, title. I want to know everything about title because it's an area that I don't completely understand, and I want to know. And so I went to some classes. I met with title agents and really had them show me what to look for in the PRs and closing documents. I want to know what every little fee was, because I thought if they ever ask me, I want to be able to give them that information. And it's human nature to kind of avoid things that we're not comfortable talking about because we don't know, just lack of knowledge. So if there's something that you find yourself kind of shying away from, take some classes and learn more about that. If it's, for me, it was title. I was like, wait, I want to know, because it impacts our transactions, if the spouse died and she's still on the title, you need to know all these things. So I'm going to show you her. I'm going to fast forward it though to the if you have time to look. Let's see.
And soundless clips of real physician-patient interactions. They're judgments of the physician's.
So on here, she kind of discussed how most people are able to make a judgment on you within, 30 seconds or just hearing the call.
Communication. When we think about communication, we think about interactions. So what is your body language communicating to me? What's mine communicating to you? And there's a lot of reason to believe that this is a valid way to look at this. So social scientists have spent a lot of time looking at the effects of our body language or other people's body language on judgments. And we make sweeping judgments and inferences from body language. And those judgments can predict really meaningful life outcomes, like who we hire or promote, who we ask out on a date. For example, Nalini Ambady, a researcher at Tufts University, shows that when people watch 30-second soundless clips of real physician-patient interactions, their judgments of the physician's niceness predict whether or not that physician will be sued. So it doesn't have to do so much with whether or not that physician was incompetent, but do we like that person and how they interacted? Even more dramatic, Alex Todorov at Princeton has shown us that judgments of political candidates' faces in just 1 second predict 70% of US Senate and gubernatorial race outcomes. And even, let's go digital, emoticons used well in online negotiations can lead you to claim more value from that negotiation. If you use them poorly, bad idea, right? So when we think of nonverbals, we think of how we judge others, how they judge us, and what the outcomes are. We tend to forget, though, the other audience that's influenced by our nonverbals, and that's ourselves. We are also influenced by our nonverbals, our thoughts and our feelings and our physiology. So what nonverbals am I talking about? I'm a social psychologist. I study prejudice, and I teach at a competitive business school. So it was inevitable that I would become interested in power dynamics. I became especially interested in nonverbal expressions of power and dominance. And what are nonverbal expressions of power and dominance? Well, this is what they are. So in the animal kingdom, they are about expanding. So you make yourself big, you stretch out, you take up space, you're basically opening up. It's about opening up. And this is true across the animal kingdom. It's not just limited to primates, and humans do the same thing. So they do this both when they have power sort of chronically, and also when they're feeling powerful in the moment. And this one is especially interesting because it really shows us how universal and old these expressions of power are. This expression, which is known as pride, Jessica Tracy has studied, she shows that people who are born with sight and people who are congenitally blind do this when they win at a physical competition. So when they cross the finish line and they've won, it doesn't matter if they've never seen anyone do it, they do this. So the arms up in the V, the chin is slightly lifted. What do we do when we feel powerless? We do exactly the opposite. We close up, we wrap ourselves up, we make ourselves small. We don't want to bump into the person next to us. So again, both animals and humans do the same thing. And this is what happens when you put together high and low power. So what we tend to do when it comes to power is that we complement the other's nonverbals. So if someone's being really powerful with us, we tend to make ourselves smaller. We don't mirror them, we do the opposite of them. So I'm watching this behavior in the classroom, and what do I notice? I notice that MBA students really exhibit the full range of power nonverbal. So you have people who are like caricatures of alphas, like really coming into the room. They get right into the middle of the room before class even starts, like they really want to occupy space. When they sit down, they're sort of spread out. They raise their hands like this. You have other people who are virtually collapsing when they come in. As soon as they come in, you see it. You see it on their faces and their bodies, and they sit in their chair and they make themselves tiny, and they go like this when they raise their hand. I noticed a couple things about this. One, you're not going to be surprised. It seems to be related to gender. So women are much more likely to do this kind of thing than men. Women feel chronically less powerful than men, so this is not surprising. But the other thing I noticed is that it also seemed to be related to the extent to which the students were participating and how well they were participating. And this is really important in the MBA classroom because participation counts for half the grade. So business schools have been struggling with this gender grade gap. You get these equally qualified women and men coming in, and then you get these differences in grades, and it seems to be partly attributable to participation. So I started to wonder, okay, so you have these people coming in like this, and they're participating. Is it possible that we could get people to fake it, and would it lead them to participate more? So my main collaborator, Dana Carney, who's at Berkeley, and I really wanted to know, can you fake it till you make it? Like, can
Kind of fast forward it a little bit to the part where she discussed interviews. Or if you have a meeting or
minutes lead to these hormonal changes that configure your brain to basically be either assertive, confident, and comfortable, or really stress reactive, and feeling sort of shut down. And we've all had that feeling, right? So it seems that our nonverbals do govern how we think and feel about ourselves. So it's not just others, but it's also ourselves. Also, our bodies change our minds. But the next question, of course, is, can power posing for a few minutes really change your life in meaningful ways? So this is in the lab, it's this little task, it's just a couple of minutes. Where can you actually apply this, which we cared about, of course. And so we think it's really what matters, where you want to use this is evaluative situations, like social threat situations. Where are you being evaluated, either by your friends, like for teenagers, it's at the lunchroom table. It could be, for some people, it's speaking at a school board meeting. It might be giving a pitch, or giving a talk like this, or doing a job interview. We decided that the one that most people could relate to, because most people had been through, was the job interview. So we published these findings, and the media are all over it, and they say, okay, so this is what you do when you go in for the job interview, right? You know, so we were, of course, horrified and said, oh my God, no, 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 that's not what we meant at all for numerous reasons. No, 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 don't do that. Again, this is not about you talking to other people, it's you talking to yourself. What do you do before you go into a job interview? You do this, right? You're sitting down, you're looking at your iPhone or your Android, not trying to leave anyone out. You're looking at your notes, you're hunching up, making yourself small, when really what you should be doing maybe is this, like in the bathroom. Right? Do that, find 2 minutes. So that's what we want to test, okay? So we bring people into a lab and they do either high or low power poses again. They go through a very stressful job interview. It's 5 minutes long. They are being recorded, they're being judged also, and the judges are trained to give no nonverbal feedback. So they look like this. Like imagine this is the person interviewing you. So for 5 minutes, nothing. And this is worse than being heckled. People hate this. It's what Marianne LaFrance calls standing in social quicksand. So this really spikes your cortisol. So this is the job interview we put them through because we really wanted to see what happened. We then have these coders look at these tapes, 4 of them. They're blind to the hypothesis, they're blind to the conditions. They have no idea who's been posing in what pose. And they end up looking at these sets of tapes and they say, oh, we want to hire these people, all the high power posers. We don't want to hire these people. We also evaluate these people much more positively overall. But what's driving it? It's not about the content of the speech. It's about the presence that they're bringing to the speech. We also, because we rate them on all these variables related to sort of competence, like how well structured is the speech? How good is it? What are their qualifications? No effect on those things. This is what's affected, these kinds of things. People are bringing their true selves, basically. They're bringing themselves. They bring their ideas, but as themselves, with no residue over them. So this is what's driving the effect or mediating the effect. So when I tell people about this, that our bodies change our minds.
So there was another study, I don't know if you guys have heard the hot and cold cup of coffee study. They had these people, they said, they put them in an elevator and they gave half of them a cold cup of coffee, and they gave the other half a hot cup of coffee. And then they would place the same actors in the elevator with them on the way up. And then when they get to the top floor, they would then ask them questions about the person that came into the elevator. And all the people that were holding the cold cup of coffee always had negative things to say about the people walking in. And all the people that had the hot cup of coffee had positive and wonderful things to say about the people that walked into the elevator. So there are these little things about our brain that are just like we associate things in how we perceive people. So just be a little mindful of that, of how you're coming across. Maybe even walk in and hand them a hot cup of coffee when you go meet with them. I don't know. Okay, so I think I'm just going to end on that. I guess if you want to watch the rest of that, you're welcome to. There are a lot of other studies as well that kind of go off the same ideology. But who did not get a ticket? And we'll do the drives. 3. You just write our name up. No, I'll just call the number. Here. Patrick, do you want to remind them about another thing they can kind of have with them when they go into these listing appointments?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on the downside of a head cold, so the mask stays on just for your protection. That's just me. Appreciate you guys. I really do. So just a real quick value add. When you're talking to your clients, you're trying to get that listing, you try to separate yourself from other agents that are telling them the same things. Free seller's coverage is a phenomenal value add. It comes with a cap of $1,500. So what does it mean if the seller uses this claim and the buyers don't get a home warranty from HWA? Who gets stuck with the bill? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
Patrick does. Directly from his paycheck.
HWA pays for it. Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite stories is Amy Lyman called me at 9:30 at night on a Thursday night. Her sellers were moving out of their house for the last time and shutting their garage door, and the spring broke on the garage door. And so I get a call, of course, and panic. So we called claims. It was late at night. They're on reduced staff, so we left a message. And we called again the following morning, Friday morning, and the buyers had already closed and funded. And the home's not even in the seller's name anymore. So we, HWA, worked with the new buyers to arrange for a contractor to come out on that following Monday and fix the garage door spring. It was about $331, typical average cost of repairing a spring. And the buyers had that positive experience of working with us and going through the claim process and saw how it worked and didn't get a home warranty from us. I don't know what they did. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know.
They should have.
Yeah, especially after that, right?
Yeah.
So nobody got stuck with the bill. Agent didn't have to pay for it, seller didn't pay for it. Works just like a regular buyer's warranty. The sellers paid a trade call fee. I believe the sellers paid a trade call fee. I'm not sure how that worked, to be honest with you, because they weren't there. So anyway, but that's typically how it works. And I'm a sucker for a good success story. And I got to tell you this one that happened this week. So a homeowner called me. He had a 6-year warranty with Choice Home Warranty. And he was really pissed because he couldn't get any service out of it. He had a washing machine claim that had been going on for weeks. They couldn't assign it. He was threatening to pull his money from him to get credit back. And an agent of his referred him to me. And so I got the call. And I told him about our plan. We have a 3-year warranty plan. So you can buy our plans for 3 years. And I talked to him about it. So I said, look, I know your washing machine's broke, but will you just wait till Tuesday before you call on your claim? You bought the warranty from me on Friday. So I was, hey, I'm on your side. Okay, so this is just to leave the room. So we cover unknown pre-existing conditions all day long. But a known pre-existing condition is kind of like buying life insurance after you're dead. All right, so it doesn't work. So I told him, I counseled him, I consulted with him on how to file the claim. He calls the claim in on Tuesday. It's on a washing machine, which is an appliance. And there's just not a lot of contractors out there for appliance repairs. And I told him, I said, you're probably gonna have to wait a week. We might even have you look up your own guy. And so I called him this morning because it was Tuesday when he called in the claim and I had heard from us a couple of days gone by. I'm like, I wonder what he had. So he called me right back and said, Pat, the contractor came out the very next day. And he says they did a diagnosis, they ordered parts, they even ordered an extra motor for the washing machine, just in case it needs it when he gets his parts and he does the repair and the motor doesn't work. So on top of it, he was over the moon, thrilled with that, and still working to try to get his money back from Choice Home Warranty. So great success stuff. Anyway.
Okay, do you want to pick one?
Yeah.
He's got a great basket here.
So
Away.
I've got a gift basket and we'll give away a mouse pad too.
Sure.
All right. So it ends in, is that
Do you want me to read it?
fuzzy?
395.
I knew it was a 9.5 in there.
395. Okay.
You won.
Thank you.
Next, I have this, so we'll do this last.
Okay.
I have this kind of an open house starter pack, and then I made these little door handle bells so that it's more of a safety thing for open houses. It's on a stretchy bungee cord, but it also has a hook. So if you have the doorknob or the ones you have to loop around, there's a way that you can still attach it. And I put 2 of those on there. And there's some things in there for your house's booties, and you can use this basket for your shoe covers. This one goes to 401. Woo! Okay. Have you guys heard of Tara with Cutco? Who has heard of Tara? So she, you can buy these, your closing gifts, your anniversary gifts, or your clients. And it's a Cutco knife, and you can choose either red, white, or the black handle. But she will engrave your, this one is not engraved, but she'll engrave your logo or information on there. And so nobody's gonna throw away a Cutco knife, even if it doesn't match the rest of their set. So they will keep that forever. So that, I give those out to my clients for their anniversary gift.
Those are awesome.
About how much are
Anybody
they?
need the lady's name for that?
Yeah, I have,
Yeah.
so I have this here, and she does have some. But that's kind of how they look, and I have the paring knife and the shears, is what I give my clients. So this one will go to $397. There you go. And she always has specials, and every time you order, she'll send you a free piece for you. So I have an ice cream scooper, a paring knife, and the spreader, the sandwich spreader. So who's the lucky person that gets the mouse pad? 397. 396. You get the mouse pad, Wade. And then you guys are welcome to take more popcorn, drinks, even if you're on the go, but I want to thank you all for being here and spending time with me. And this is one of my goals this year, was to get more comfortable. It's been a long time since I used to train. I used to be a corporate trainer, and I used to train and hire staff, and it's been over 15 years since I've done that, so.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of
Great job.
Thank you.